Mabuiga. Welcome back to the Garifuna Experience Podcast. I'm your host, José Francisco Ávila. Today, we continue our series, The Unseen Thread, where we pull back the curtain on the indelible impact of Garifuna history within the African diaspora. Today's story is one of vision, incredible wealth, and a loan that changed the world. We're exploring the Garifuna investment, uncredited and often forgotten, that built the Standard Fruit Company, the pioneers of the coast. To understand global banana trade, you must understand the Garifuna heart. After settling in Trujillo, Honduras, it was our Garifuna ancestors who carved the first path to what we now call the city of La Ceiba in Honduras. By 1807, the Garifuna had disagreements with the Spanish regime, and many of them left Trujillo. Some moved towards the mouth of the Patuca River. Others headed west until they reached the mouth of the Cangrejal River in the first months of the year in 1810. Historically, the northern coast was inhabited by indigenous groups such as the Tolupan and Pech, and the area was previously known as Monguiche since the 17th century. After being uninhabited for more than 300 years, the region of the Atlantic coast of Honduras between the port of Trujillo and the port of Tela, the Garifuna came to live in this area. They have the distinction of being the first important human groups after the Tolupan and Pech to settle what is now the current municipal district of La Ceiba, founding the first villages along the coastal path, dedicated walking trails along the Caribbean seashores. They called it La Rubella, the beach path. They walked the shoreline to avoid the treacherous swamps and the dense, dark tropical forest. In 1810, led by Celestino Garcia, a group of young Garifuna visionaries headed west. They didn't just find a river, they founded a future. Garcia established the village of Peru, the very first settlement in the municipality of La Ceiba. Shortly after, Francisco Papa Núñez founded Satuye, named in honor of our legendary paramount chief, José Satuye, and is currently known as Satuye. By 1815, alongside leaders like Matilde Gotay, they established Pueblo Nuevo. The insight: these weren't just refugees, they were architects of commerce. They spoke French and English. They traded clothing and grain across the Caribbean. They weren't just living on the land, they owned the wealth of the region. The golden era of Garifuna commerce. From 1810 to 1850, the Black Caribs of Pueblo Nuevo were the economic titans of the North Coast. Because of their trade with Martinique, they developed a sophisticated palate for French wine and incorporated French nuances into our language. Names like Francisco Núñez, Celestino Garcia, Carmen Moreira, Matilde Gotay, Pancho Álvarez, and Julia Zambulá were not just names. They were the holders of vast coastal lands spanning the Cuero and Salado rivers. They had the land, they had the linguistic mastery, and they had the capital, the Sicilian connection, and the Great Lawn. Enter Francisco Pablo Tarentino Caruso, an Italian immigrant who arrived in 1833. He didn't find a wild coast. He found thriving Garifuna society. He partnered with our ancestors, and through that collaboration, he amassed a legendary fortune. But then, the tide shifted. Salvador D'Antoni arrived, representing the Vaccaro family clan. Through a mix of family pressure and the law of the Levirate, he took control of the Tarentino fortune. But he needed more than money. He needed land and a banana supply chain. Then Tony Caruso and William Collins approached the Garifuna leaders, Nunez Jr., Garcia, Moreira, Gotay, and Alvarez. They made a request that sounds unbelievable today. They asked the Garifuna to use their influence to convince local farmers to sell bananas to Dantoni on credit. In other words, to finance the exportation of bananas. They asked the Garifuna leaders to lend them their ancestral lands at the mouth of the Cuero and Salado rivers to build plantations which will supply the bananas. The birth of a giant, Standard Fruit Company. This was perhaps the largest interest-free loan in the history of Honduras. No collateral, no down payment, just the word of the Garifuna people. That loan built the Vaccaro Brothers Company, which in 1923 became the Standard Fruit Company. This Garifuna land and labor turned La Ceiba into the world's banana capital. Standard Fruit Company eventually grew so powerful it influenced entire governments, leading to the term banana republics. The tragedy? Salvador Dantoni never returned those lands. He never paid a cent in lease payments. The Garifuna investment was the bedrock upon which the Dole Company stands today. Yet investors were pushed to the margins of the history books. When we talk about the unseen thread, we are talking about the foundations of global industries built on Garifuna soil and Garifuna trust. We were the first exporters, the first developers, and the original financiers of the Honduran North Coast. Thank you for listening. Remember, the future of the Garifuna people is in our hands, but that future is fueled by knowing our true worth in the past. And that wraps up another illuminating episode of the Garifuna Experience Podcast. Thank you for listening. Remember, the future of the Garifuna people is in our hands. Until next time, stay united, stay proud. Sungube Lida Aba. Ayo. Find new episodes of the Garifuna Experience Podcast every Tuesday on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Amazon Music, or whatever you get your podcasts. Please rate and review the Garifuna Experience Podcast. It helps our history reach the world.